What if the man who never texts back, never opens up, and always seems 1 foot out the door is actually the man who wants you the most? That sounds insane, but stay with me, because what I am about to share with you is going to completely flip the script on everything you thought you knew about avoidant men. Most women chase these men the wrong way. They give more, they love harder, they wait longer, and they end up with nothing but confusion and a broken heart. But here is the part nobody talks about. Avoidant men do fall. They do commit. They do become incredible partners, just not with every woman, only with a very specific type of woman. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly what that woman does differently. So if you have ever loved someone who felt emotionally unavailable, or you are in something right now where you keep wondering why he pulls back just when things get good, this is the most important thing you will watch today. Drop the word open in the comments right now if you are ready to finally understand what is actually going on inside his head. And make sure you subscribe, because what is coming in this video goes deep. We are not doing surface level stuff here. We are going in. Let us start from the beginning, because you cannot work with something you do not understand. And most people do not actually understand what an avoidant man is. They just know he is confusing. They just know he runs hot and cold. They just know that when things start to feel real, he disappears. And they assume it means he does not care. But that assumption is where everything goes wrong. An avoidant man is not someone who does not feel things. He is someone who feels things so deeply that it terrifies him. His nervous system learned very early on, probably in childhood, that closeness leads to pain, that needing someone leads to disappointment, that love comes with conditions. So his brain built a wall, not to keep you out, to keep himself safe. And that wall has been there for so long that he does not even know it is there anymore. It just feels like who he is. So when you show up in his life and you start to matter to him, something strange happens. He does not lean in. He pulls back, not because he does not want you, but because wanting you scares him more than anything else in the world. The more he likes you, the more he retreats, because his brain is sounding an alarm. And that alarm says danger, not because you are dangerous, but because attachment feels dangerous to him. Now, here is where most women get it completely wrong. They see him pull back and they panic. They start reaching out more, texting more, trying to prove their love more. They think if he just knows how much I care, he will come back. But that is the worst thing you can do with an avoidant man, because every time you chase, you confirm his deepest fear, that love is overwhelming, that relationships steal your freedom, that closeness is suffocating, and he pulls back even more. So what do you do instead? That is what this whole video is about. There are 4 specific things that avoidant men need from the woman they want to be with forever. And I promise you, none of them are what you expect. These are not things you will find in a basic relationship advice article. These go deeper. These are the things that actually rewire how he sees love. The things that make him feel safe enough to finally let someone in. And when you understand these 4 things, everything changes. Not just with him, with every relationship in your life. Let us start with the first one. The first thing an avoidant man needs from his dream woman is that she has a full life that does not revolve around him. Now, I know that sounds almost too simple, but let me explain why this is so much more powerful than it sounds. Avoidant men are deeply attracted to independence. Not the kind of independence that is performed. Not the kind where you pretend not to care just to seem cool. Real independence. The kind where you have your own world, your own friends, your own passions, your own goals that light you up from the inside. The kind where if he disappeared tomorrow, your life would still be rich and full and meaningful. Here is why this matters to him specifically. Remember that wall we talked about? the one his nervous system built to protect him, that wall is always watching for signs that you are going to become his whole world. Because if you become his whole world, then losing you becomes catastrophic. And his brain cannot handle that level of risk. So the moment you start rearranging your life around him, the moment your happiness starts depending too much on what he does or does not do, something in him starts to feel trapped. Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because your neediness, even the most innocent kind, triggers his deepest fear. The fear that he is going to lose himself in a relationship. But when you have a full life, something completely different happens. When he reaches out and you are genuinely busy because you have things going on that matter to you, when he sees that you are happy with or without his attention, when he realizes that you are not sitting around waiting for him, it does the opposite of what you think. It draws him toward you because now you are not a threat to his independence. You are proof that a relationship with you could actually feel free. This does not mean playing games. This does not mean making yourself artificially unavailable. It means actually building a life you love. It means having things in your world that excite you that have nothing to do with him. When you talk to him about your life, he should hear the energy of someone who is fully alive, someone who has somewhere to be and something to look forward to. That energy is magnetic to an avoidant man because it tells him that you are not going to consume him. You are going to complement him. And here is the deeper layer. When a woman has her own full life, she naturally gives him the space he needs without even trying. She is not overthinking every text. She is not analyzing every response time. She is not waiting by the phone. She is living. And that gap, that natural space that exists when two full people come together, is exactly what allows an avoidant man to breathe. And when he can breathe, he can actually start to feel safe. And safety is the thing he has been missing his entire life. So if you are in something with an avoidant man right now, the first question to ask yourself is not, what can I do to make him love me more? The question is, what can I do to make my own life richer, fuller, and more exciting? Because the woman who wins with an avoidant man is never the woman who gave the most. She is the woman who needed the least while still wanting deeply. Now let us talk about the second thing. The second thing an avoidant man needs from his dream woman is emotional steadiness. This one is so important and so rarely talked about. And I need you to really sit with this because it changes everything. Avoidant men grew up in environments where emotions were either too much, unpredictable, or used against them. Maybe the people who were supposed to love them most were emotionally volatile. Maybe when they showed their feelings, they were dismissed or mocked or overwhelmed with someone else's feelings in return. So they learned to keep things inside. They learned to stay small emotionally, and they learned to be deeply wary of emotional intensity in others. This is why so many emotionally expressive women accidentally push avoidant men away. It is not because there is anything wrong with feeling deeply. Feeling deeply is beautiful, but the way you express and manage those feelings around an avoidant man matters enormously. Here is what emotional steadiness looks like in practice. It means that when he goes quiet for a few days, you do not spiral into a panic. It means that when he says something that stings, you do not immediately escalate into a big emotional confrontation. It means that when you have a need, you can express it calmly and clearly without it becoming a storm. It means that your inner world is stable enough that his inconsistency does not pull you completely off your axis. Now, I need to be careful here, because I am not telling you to suppress your emotions. I am not telling you to pretend to be okay when you are not. That is not what this is about. Suppressing your emotions is just as damaging as flooding them onto someone else. What I am talking about is emotional regulation, the ability to feel your feelings without being completely controlled by them. The ability to communicate what you are experiencing without making him the villain in a story that is really about your pain. When a woman can do this, something remarkable happens with an avoidant man. He starts to trust her because she becomes evidence that emotions are not dangerous, that closeness does not have to mean chaos, that he can actually let his guard down without everything exploding. She becomes the exception to everything he has ever experienced. And that is an extraordinarily powerful place to be in someone's life. Now, here is the thing most women miss. Emotional steadiness is also about not over-functioning for his emotions. A lot of women, especially women who love hard, try to manage the avoidant man's discomfort. They back off, not because they have processed their feelings, but because they are terrified of pushing him away. They smile when they want to cry. They say, "I am fine," when they are not. And they slowly lose themselves trying to be whatever he needs. That is not steadiness. That is self-abandonment. And eventually it builds into resentment. And resentment destroys everything. Real steadiness comes from having enough self-awareness and self-compassion that you can hold your own feelings without dumping them on him and without swallowing them down entirely. You feel them, you process them, sometimes with a friend, sometimes in a journal, sometimes just with time. And then when you do bring something to him, it comes from a grounded place, not from a frantic place, not from a place of, "I need you to fix this right now," but from a place of, "This matters to me, and I trust that we can talk about it." That groundedness is profoundly attractive to an avoidant man because it shows him a version of emotional intimacy that does not feel like a tornado. It shows him that being close to you is actually safe. And safe is the thing he has been searching for without knowing it his entire life. The third thing, and this one might be the most counterintuitive of all. The third thing an avoidant man needs from his dream woman is that she respects his space without making it mean something terrible. Let me say that again. She respects his space without making it mean something terrible about her, about him, or about the relationship. This is the piece that most women cannot crack, because here is what happens. He pulls back. She interprets it as rejection. She feels hurt. She reaches out more to fix the hurt. He pulls back further. She feels even more rejected, and the whole cycle spirals until someone gives up. But here is the truth about why avoidant men need space. It is not because they do not want you. It is because their nervous system needs room to regulate. When they get close, the intimacy triggers their attachment anxiety. They feel overwhelmed, even if they love being with you, even if they had an incredible time with you. Their system needs to decompress, needs to return to its baseline, needs to remember that it is okay, that they have not lost themselves, that they are still free. And the amount of time they need to do that varies from person to person. Some need a day, some need a few days, some need a week. But here is what they all have in common. When that decompression time is respected, they come back. When it is not respected, when it is met with texts asking what is wrong, or are you okay, or did I do something, they either pull further back or they come back out of guilt and resentment rather than genuine desire. So the dream woman for an avoidant man is someone who has learned to let the space be space. Not because she does not care, but because she trusts herself enough not to need constant reassurance. She can sit with uncertainty. She can feel the discomfort of not knowing where things stand and not immediately try to make it go away. Now, I want to be clear about something. This does not mean tolerating disappearing acts indefinitely. This does not mean accepting behavior that is genuinely disrespectful or dismissive. There is a huge difference between an avoidant man who needs a few days to recharge and a man who ghosts you for 2 weeks and then acts like nothing happened. The first one is a nervous system response that you can work with. The second one is someone who is not making you a priority, and you deserve to name that. But within the realm of someone who is genuinely trying, someone who does come back, someone who does show up eventually, the woman who can offer space without punishment is the woman who actually gets him to stay. Because every time she lets him breathe without making him feel guilty for it, she teaches his nervous system something new. She teaches it that coming close does not have to cost him his freedom. She becomes the first relationship in his life where he does not have to choose between love and freedom. And that is revolutionary for him. And here is the beautiful irony. The more space you can genuinely give him, the less he tends to need. Because the anxiety that drives him away is the anxiety that closeness will trap him. When you prove over and over again that closeness does not trap him, the anxiety quiets down. He starts to come back faster. He starts to stay longer. He starts to initiate more. Because you have become the safest person in his world. Now let us get into the fourth one, because this one ties everything together. The fourth thing an avoidant man needs from his dream woman is that she is honest without being aggressive, clear without being punishing, real without being overwhelming. This is about communication, but not the kind of communication advice you have heard before. This goes much deeper. Avoidant men have a complicated relationship with vulnerability. On one hand, they are starving for it. Underneath all those walls, there is a person who desperately wants to be truly known by someone, who wants to drop the armor and just be real with another human being. But their nervous system fights them on this constantly, because every time they have been vulnerable in the past, something bad happened. They were judged. They were left. They were made to feel like too much or not enough. So they stopped being vulnerable, and they started keeping people at arm's length instead. The dream woman for an avoidant man is someone who creates an environment where vulnerability feels safe. And the way you do that is not by asking him to open up, not by pushing him to share his feelings, not by sitting him down and saying, we need to talk about where this is going. All of those things, even with the best intentions, feel like pressure to an avoidant man, and pressure makes him shut down. Instead, the way you create safety for his vulnerability is by being vulnerable yourself. Not in a way that floods him, but in a way that models what it looks like to share something real without needing a specific reaction. You say something honest about yourself, something that takes courage to say, something that is real and unguarded, and you do not make him responsible for fixing it or responding in a perfect way. You just let it exist. You just let it be there between you. When you do this consistently, something starts to shift in him. He starts to reciprocate, slowly at first, maybe just a tiny thing, a passing comment about something that bothered him, a small moment where he lets you see something he would not normally show. And the key is what you do in that moment. Because if you make a big deal of it, if you over-respond, if you gasp and say, oh wow, thank you for sharing that with me, he will immediately regret opening up and he will close back down. But if you receive it gently, if you respond with warmth but not overwhelm, if you treat it as natural and normal and beautiful without making it into a performance, he will start to trust that you are someone he can be real with. And that is when everything changes, because that is when he stops seeing the relationship as a threat. He starts seeing it as a refuge. He stops fighting the pull toward you. He starts leaning into it because you have become the one person in his life with whom it is safe to be himself. Now, here is the other side of this, the honest part, because this is not just about creating space for his vulnerability. It is also about being honest about your own needs. And this is where a lot of women mess up. They are so afraid of pushing the avoidant man away that they never say what they actually need. They minimize, they pretend, they accommodate, and then they wonder why they feel invisible in the relationship. The dream woman for an avoidant man is not a woman without needs. She is a woman who can express her needs without making them into ultimatums. She can say something like, I have noticed I feel more connected to you when we make consistent plans. And I wanted to bring that up. Not in a way that is accusing, not in a way that says, you are failing me, just in a way that is honest and clear and grounded. And then she lets him respond. She does not catastrophize if the first response is not perfect. She trusts the conversation. This kind of communication is an art form. It takes practice. It takes knowing yourself well enough to know what you actually need. It takes enough self-worth to believe that your needs are worth stating. And it takes enough confidence to not collapse if the response is not immediate or perfect. But when you do this well, it does something profound for an avoidant man. It shows him that he can actually handle a real relationship, that conflict does not have to mean catastrophe, that having needs does not mean the relationship is falling apart. He starts to see that you are someone who can have hard conversations without the world ending. And that makes him trust you more, trust the relationship more, trust himself more. Now let's zoom out for a moment, because underneath everything we've discussed today is one core truth. The dream woman for an avoidant man is not following a strategy. She is not manipulating his psychology or trying to say all the right things. She is simply a woman who has done enough inner work to show up from a place of wholeness instead of need. Having a full life, staying emotionally steady, giving space without punishment, and communicating honestly are not tactics. They are the natural expressions of someone who knows her own worth. And here is the hard truth. If you are currently chasing an avoidant man, desperately hoping he will finally choose you, you probably are not in that place yet. That is not a criticism. Most of us have to go through pain before we learn a healthier way to love. The real question is whether you are willing to do that work. Not for him, for yourself. Because when you become secure in who you are, you do not just become attractive to avoidant men. You become attractive to healthy, emotionally available people. Confidence, emotional maturity, honesty, and self-respect are qualities that improve every relationship. But I also do not want to leave you with the impression that the responsibility is always yours. Avoidant men have to be willing to grow too. You cannot love someone into healing. You cannot be patient enough to fix a person who refuses to work on themselves. The avoidant man who is capable of a real relationship may struggle with intimacy, but he keeps showing up. He makes efforts. He cares. He moves forward, even if slowly. The one who is not ready does the opposite. He disappears when things get serious, keeps everything vague, and gives just enough attention to keep you from leaving without ever truly committing. The key is to look at the trajectory, not the moments. Anyone can have a good day. What matters is whether there is more trust, consistency, and effort than there was months ago. If nothing is changing, no amount of being the perfect woman will fix that. It is also important to understand your own attachment style. Many people who end up in these push-pull dynamics are anxiously attached. The anxious partner seeks reassurance. The avoidant partner seeks space. Each person's coping mechanism triggers the other's deepest fear, creating a painful cycle. If you tend to overthink, overgive, and make the relationship the center of your life, the work is not just about understanding him, it is about understanding yourself, learning to regulate your own emotions and build security from within. And when you do that, one of two things happens. Either you create a healthier relationship with him, or you realize you want someone who is naturally more available and have the courage to choose that instead. Either way, you win. Because all four qualities we've discussed today come back to one thing: security. A full life comes from security. Emotional steadiness comes from security. Giving space without punishment comes from security. Honest communication comes from security. The woman who captivates an avoidant man is simply a woman who knows who she is and does not need a relationship to complete her. And the beautiful paradox is that this is exactly what makes intimacy feel safe to someone who has spent his life running from it. So if you are wondering how to become that woman, the answer is not a technique. It is a commitment to your own growth, to healing, to building a life that feels meaningful, whether a relationship works out or not. Because at the end of that journey, you gain something far more valuable than the attention of one man. You gain yourself. And that is the real prize. Not winning an avoidant man, but becoming the kind of woman who no longer needs to win anyone.